are now tuned into My Skin is My Sin presents another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio. And today we have the honor and the privilege of welcoming activist, husband, father, college graduate, and former NBA player, Mr. Etan Thomas himself. How you doing, King?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Trying to work on my intros, spice them up a little bit.
That was good. That was good.
It's all right.
That was good. That was good.
That's what's up, man. So how's your family?
I'm blessed. I mean, we're still kind of, I know the world's trying to open up. We're still opening up very slowly in my family. So we're not in a rush to get any big crowds and all that stuff. So we're just kind of taking it slow.
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. So NBA player, traveled the world, great father, awesome husband. What made you want to stick up for Black folks?
Oh, well, that's been me from the time I was in middle school. Everybody that knows me growing up, knows that this has just been what I am all about. It just so happened that I played basketball too. Mm-hmm. So, starting in middle school, 7th grade, after I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, everything kind of changed in my entire world. So I started walking differently, talking differently. My interests were different. It was like everything kind of switched. And it was interesting because I was just talking to some people from my class and they were reminiscing, talking about how, that book can really change everyone. In middle school, you're worried about middle school stuff. You're worried about, your clothes fitting in, stuff like that, and then everything just changed. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why are we not learning more about our history in this history class and only you're learning about European history? Why haven't I been taught anything about my own history in this class? So everything has been, it just kind of changes. And as I just got older, high school, college, I just, kept being on that path.
That's a beautiful thing. And if I remember correctly, you had an incident in high school with the police.
Yes. That's what really got me into writing. That's when I really made the connection that I can have a voice and they'll listen to me because I play basketball. And that's where, I started getting into speech and debate a lot in high school. And I had an incident with the police where it was mistaken identity. They had me, sitting on the ground, 45 minutes, detained, guns drawn, all that stuff. And it just so happened that I only looked familiar to them because I played basketball.
Right.
So I wrote about that. And it became my original oratory that I used for speech and debate. And I'm talking about stereotypes and police brutality and, the conditions that Black people are in right now and, the differences of treatment and how white people aren't treated that way and all these different things. And it became big news all around Tulsa, but only because I played basketball. Right. So as different people started telling me, they were like, hey, thanks for speaking out on that. You know what I mean? That happens all the time, but they only listen to you because you hoop. So that's when I made the connection. And I just kind of kept doing it from there.
Are you disappointed with today's athlete or proud?
Oh, no, I think that it's interesting. I was talking to Craig Hodges about this, and I was interviewing him for my next book. And he was talking about that everybody is at their pace of growth and learning. And he was making references to, the athletes around his time and him looking around and everybody being quiet. Now, right now, young athletes, they're speaking. Like they're using their platforms. It's a different age. I say like the past few years, the Kaepernick effect, that era, this is a different type of athlete. When I was playing, it was a little bit more quiet for a little while. Athletes were still a little bit, at least in the NBA, were a little bit quieter. And then the era before that was, Craig Hodges and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. So it went in like gaps. So, I'm happy to see where athletes are now and how they're using their own platforms and their own social media. And that's a big thing because we didn't have social media when I played. Craig Hodges and them definitely didn't have social media. You know what I mean? Bill Russell and them definitely didn't have social media. So it's a little bit different. You don't have to rely on someone who doesn't respect the fact that you are speaking on telling your story. You know what I mean? Now you can tell it yourself. Yeah. Now, one of the issues that we had was, the same reporters that despised us for having any type of opinion outside of basketball were the ones we'd have to go through to tell our stories. And it just, That's the reason why it didn't work.
Yeah, and it didn't help that Jordan was silent, was dead ass, just nothing.
Yeah, and that's a little bit more what I was referencing when Craig Hodges was talking about people's growth. And you see Jordan now, and he's speaking on different issues. He's doing different things in the community, things that Craig Hodges would have really wished that he would have had the passion to do back when he was playing for the Bulls. But like I said, everybody grows at their own pace. That's it.
That's a really nice way of putting it, bro.
I hear you. Well, I got respect for MJ. So I played with MJ for 2 years here at Washington, and I do have to say that I saw him do a lot of things in the community that he didn't tell anybody about and didn't want anybody to know. So I saw that with my own eyes. Now, as far as speaking out on politics or things that he didn't do, but the notion that he didn't care about the community, I can say firsthand that's not true because I saw him do things. Now, how much would it have helped for him to use his voice? Oh, tremendously. He was Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? So him saying so that goes back to Craig Hodges' point of when they were playing. Now remember when they were playing against the Lakers in 91, 92. Now remember what just happened then. That was Rodney King. Yeah. Rodney King had just happened. So Craig Hodges was like, he went to Magic, he went to Michael. He was like, hey, we should make a statement. We should maybe boycott the game or say something. And they were like, no, that's too much. You know what I mean? Both of them, both Magic and Michael. And it was just at that time, it's amazing to see the difference then and then the difference now, where you saw last summer, after Jacob Blake was shot multiple times, you saw the NBA pretty much shut down. Like you saw Milwaukee say, we're not going to play. You saw the Lakers say, okay, we're not going to play. The Clippers, and then the whole NBA just stopped. And, Craig Hodges, was like, okay, I wish that would have happened back then. But, and so to answer your question, the growth of the athletes now in using their voice and utilizing their voice and understanding that they don't have to be afraid that them using their voice will hurt their pocket or affect their endorsements. The endorsements go with them. They're the product. They can say whatever they want to say. And the fact that LeBron understands that really has a trickle-down effect on everybody else.
Yeah, he definitely set the tone.
Definitely.
And I'm so proud of that brother.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, where he's come from to now.
Yeah.
Oh, talking about growth.
Yeah.
Dude, Jesus
really.
Christ. You had heart surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm old, but I had heart surgery last year.
Okay.
And it has really it's like a cloud over me still. I haven't gotten used to it yet.
Okay.
How did you get past damn, I could have died?
So when I was in middle school, I was first detected with a leaky valve. So I knew about it from the time I was in middle school. Wow. And a lot of the times there was just different things that I had to do differently. So I couldn't ever, get into caffeine, never got into coffee, never got into, caffeine drinks because I couldn't do that my whole life. If I went to the dentist, I had to get antibiotics, even to get my teeth cleaned. So it was just different ways that I had to move that I knew from middle school. Now, I always knew that there was going to be some point when I would have to have surgery. I just didn't think it was going to be when I was 29 years old and playing in the NBA. I thought it was going to be when I was a lot older. So when it actually happened, I remember it was right before training camp. And we're doing I had to take different physicals because, again, my I had to take different stress echoes and things of that nature, watch my ejection fraction numbers and things of that nature. And so, my cardiologist said, we see a little dip here. Let me send you to somebody else, another specialist. So I flew out to Chicago, saw another specialist. And he was like, yeah, let me send you to another specialist. And they flew me out to New York, saw another specialist. So all three of them said, yeah, there's no need to risk it. It was a good time for you to have a surgery now. I was like, now? I was like, I feel good. I'm good. We start training camp in a few days. I'm sitting here, doing sprints in the hotel down in the thing to keep in shape because I was missing a day or two here traveling all the place. They were like, no, there's no need to risk it. Your numbers have changed, that have dipped. You're not going to feel anything right now, but you need to have a surgery. And so that kind of changed everything.
Yo, the thing that I remember most was when they wheeled me into the OR. And I've been a nurse for 30 years.
Uh-huh.
And this was just like, and I still see this moment in my dreams, like just the light shining on me and like 30 people around. And I
Yeah, it's
remember
crazy.
saying, yeah, I remember saying it, and wow, this shit is really real.
Right.
And they said, yep, and the lights
Yeah.
went out.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me at the time, my wife was pregnant
Mm,
with our second, and the
mm.
doctor said that she shouldn't travel. So that was a big deep thing. So my wife was like, "Well, I'm gonna travel anyway. I ain't worried about the doctor." I was like, "No, if the doctor said you shouldn't
Ah,
travel, you don't need to travel." Because she was like really close, like it was
right.
like towards the end.
Hmm.
And I had my surgery at the Mayo Clinic, and
Mm.
so she didn't travel. And then my mom, you know what I mean? She was so nervous and so everything like that. I was like, Mom, you're not gonna like me saying this, but I don't think you need to travel either. You know what I mean? So it was like this big friction thing. And I asked my little brother, I was like, hey man, can you roll with me? He was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So he just kind of, kept cooling everything off, but it was so intense. And I had been read up on it. So I
Mm.
was aware of the ins and outs, the risks, the everything like that. The issue with me was more of the reporting or the misreporting from sports reporters who weren't read up on it.
Right.
And they just linked all heart surgeries in the same bucket. So they started talking about all these different people. Reggie Lewis led by. I was like, wait, no, these are different people, different
Right.
cases. You can't lump
Right.
them all in the same bucket. So that was a little bit. That was mostly what was troubling. But yeah, no, it was a process, and it's a process where it makes you thankful for everything, because going through the whole process after the surgery, you can't do anything for a while. Like literally nothing.
Oh,
Like
trust me, I
you
know.
had
Oh
you
my
had the surgery
God.
through they went through your chest,
I got
right?
I got the scar right
All right, you
here.
got the
Yep.
zipper. All right, yeah. You
Yep.
can't do anything for a while. Like
Couldn't even wash my
literally
own ass.
nothing. You can do
Man.
nothing. So that puts everything in perspective.
That humbles you with your
Oh,
wife so
oh,
much that it's
yeah,
like, oh, like,
yeah.
and then I had to go. I was in COVID, so
Oh,
I couldn't,
yeah.
like and then my mother passed while I was in surgery.
Oh,
It was,
wow.
yeah, it was a like just a real eye opener as far as my wife and I are concerned.
Mm,
As far as our relationship, because
of course.
she was on her shit. Like if I had
Yeah.
any misgivings about how she would respond to certain things,
Oh, yeah.
not anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how it is.
That's when you.
But it
That's
was
when you know
also
you
a
got a dope
blessing.
one.
Oh, definitely. But I looked at it as a blessing,
Hmm.
because I kept saying, I was like, well, this could have been a whole lot worse. This could have been a whole lot worse. Like I'm looking, and there are like kids at the Mayo Clinic, and they're literally
Yeah,
waiting for hearts
yeah,
and don't have no hearts.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's so many different situations. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still blessed. So I had to always remember that.
So you're dead and gone. What do you want your legacy to be?
Hmm. That's interesting. That's a good question. It has nothing to do with basketball. Basketball is always just a step to get to where I want it to be.
I
As
kind
far
of got
as
that from you too.
yeah, yeah, that had nothing to do with
Just
basketball at
saying.
all. It was because it was always about how to be a voice for the voiceless, or the people who using a so the athletes that I grew up really admiring and reading about, that my mother gave me books about,
Mhm.
was always Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali, John Carlos, and Tommy Smith. Those athletes that took stances and
Right.
used their positions as platforms. And that's what I want my legacy to be. I mean, it's really about, you know, when you're blessed to have that platform and the voice, and I still have people that still reach out to me all the time, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's whatever, saying thank you for doing what you do, the same way they did in high school,
Mhm.
where when I was speaking about the police brutality that's going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they say, listen, people are hearing it because of you,
Yeah,
because of your position. That
absolutely.
to me is something that that it's special. When you're blessed, you have to be a blessing to somebody else. That's a saying that my mother always told me. So that's what I want my legacy to be.
I mean, it sounds like, outside of the heart surgery, you've had a dope ass life. Like, what's it like to get drafted? Like, what's the first thing you do after, you shake Stern's hand, the whole nine? The next day
Yeah.
you wake up and it's like, oh shit, I'm about to be rich.
It's crazy. Of course, the first thing you want to do is buy your mama a house. You know what I mean? That's the first thing,
Yep.
tell the landlord, hey, deuces. You don't even have to talk to us no more. You know what I'm saying? We gonna be home owners now. You ain't got to even. So that's always the first thing. And then, it's just everything happened so fast. And when I was taken, I was actually the first person that Mark Cuban ever drafted. So he bought the Mavericks, and I was the first pick ever. So he was so excited. He was like a kid in the candy store, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this." And then he was, you know what I mean? He was talking a mile a minute, and then he came and picked us up on a private plane and took us down to Dallas. It was like, yeah, and this is where this is gonna be, and just like literally like a kid in a candy store. That's how excited he was, and it happened so quick. It was just amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Dumbest thing you did. And I don't mean like dumb, like dangerous, but just the biggest trick for yourself. Like just I wanted this car or like just something silly you did.
Yeah, see, I was different then. So I was someone who was so, I didn't, my mother's a teacher, single parent household. I have a relationship with my dad, so it's not like he wasn't in the picture at all, but single parent household in the house. And so we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. So once I first got to the NBA, I didn't want to spend anything. I was like, I'm going to hold on to everything. I don't care I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm not going to spend a dime. So the first year, I didn't spend a penny from my actual contract. Didn't spend anything. I bought my mom a house. I used the trading card deal that I had. You get these endorsement deals. Right. So I had a few endorsements, shoe deal, trading card deal, stuff like that. I bought my house. I was renting an apartment in Dallas. Bought a few little suits, something like that. And I lived on such a low budget that and I remember I had my financial advisor. It was like, so you haven't spent anything. I was like, I don't want to spend anything. I'm just holding it here. And then they were like, okay, well, let's put it in these stocks and do that. I was like, no. I don't want to do that either. I just want to hold it. And I was like, I don't want to do any, I'll go a low interest, low risk, and I'll let it grow slowly. And I'm just going to hold it. And it's funny because I tell that story to young guys now and they're laughing. Like they laugh so hard. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want, but then I had other teammates that were the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like the absolute opposite. And it was weird to them seeing me. And they were like, man, this dude penny pinching, cheat. He acting like he's still in college. I was like, look, I don't know how long this is going to last. So, you know what I mean?
And it's a lot of brothers that wish they had have done exactly what you did right now.
That's true. Man, that is true.
So that's Antoine Walker comes to mind.
Yeah. And it's funny because so the next year I played with MJ. In DC. So I saw a lot of guys come around and try to be like MJ. Now, MJ is on a whole different stratosphere. Exactly. Yeah, you can't even, right? So he's playing around, gambling, doing all these big things, but he's MJ. He has MJ money.
Right.
Everybody don't have MJ money, but they still trying to hang with MJ. And it didn't go well for a lot of guys.
Is he a decent gambler, though? I heard he's trash.
Listen, I never gambled with him to know. I never got into it. I'm sitting like we're on the plane. They're in the front over there gambling. I'm back here minding my business. I never once, I would pass by, go into the bathroom, go right back to my seat. Not one time. So I don't know what's going on up there. I know it's a whole lot of hooting and hollering and carrying on, but other than that, it's not my business.
And I must tell you, bro, I just need to thank you, man. You are the most down to earth individual outside of this interview. Just like we're in some of the same groups, like Black Fathers.
Great group, fantastic group,
phenomenal. Love that group.
Yeah, love it.
But it's not like you're up here because I'm Etan Thomas.
Right. I feel you.
You're a regular cat, man, and
well, yeah. I mean, because we
really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you have being humble is something where that everything is bigger than yourself. And a lot of times people get caught up in people telling them how great they are or whatever little accomplishment or whatever little power they have. And it goes to their head, and you see that at every level. You could go past somebody at the toll booth, and they're like, "Look here," and you're like, "Wow, this why are you so?"
I just got a raise.
But you know what I'm saying? But yeah, always have a walk with humility. It's just something that's important.
Nah, well, you know what? Shout out to your moms too, because she did a phenomenal job, and your
Definitely,
pops.
definitely, both
You know,
parents, both parents.
um, geez, when you come across regular folk, what do you have questions? And what are your questions for them?
It's interesting. A lot of times when this is before COVID,
Mm.
and my kids would be like, we would go somewhere, grocery store, something regular, and people would come up and just engage in talking. And they're observing how, I'm not standoffish, but I engage with people.
Mm.
And the reason why is that, you never know who you're talking to. This is something else my mother told me when I was young. She would do it in this big parable about, you angels walking up to you. You don't know that you're talking to, you know what I mean? Type of thing. But it always stuck with me. And I've had so many people come back and circle around and say, hey, I had this conversation with you 20 years ago and it changed my life. And it was really like a 2-minute conversation, like all the time. So when, that always comes into mind when people engage, and, you just never know how you can be affecting somebody's life. That's the honest truth.
That's some dope shit. Although you're too tall for me to actually have I would not walk up to you in public, man. Did that shit with Jalen Rose, took a picture with this cat, and I look like his kid.
Yeah, he's tall.
Yeah, I've never showed anybody this picture. Shit's still in my phone.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
And let me see. You wrote a book, More Than an Athlete. If people want to cop that, how they do that, or is that the only one? Or do you have more?
No, everything's online. I'm finishing up my 5th book now. So I'm More Than an Athlete. I have Fatherhood. I have We Matter, Athletes and Activism. Yeah, I do a little bit of writing. And it's always funny because, and I'll tell the story that I know we have to wrap it up because I do have a 12 o'clock. But I'll tell the story. I always think about how in 5th grade, my teacher, Miss Gillette, she told my mother that I had a learning disability and I would never be able to really write and complete in coherent paragraphs because I was slower as a student. And my mother said, oh no, I'm not accepting that at all. So every time I write now, because now I write for The Guardian, I'm a senior writer for basketballnews.com all the time, right? And so whenever I would write a lot for a while, my mother would send her a copy of my article. Or she would send her, that I have a new book that's now released. But I tell that story for a reason because, especially with our kids, teachers have a way, especially white teachers with Black kids, have a way of discouraging them.
Yes.
And that's been happening for decades. And I always even go back to where Malcolm X talked about his teacher who told him that he could never be a lawyer. And that's not a realistic goal for a Black person to have.
Yeah.
But that pattern still exists today. So I always like to tell that story.
Yeah. They try to knock us down early. So
all the time.
Get used to it.
All the time.
I just want to thank you again, bro. If you ever have time to come back and we can have a longer discussion, we would greatly appreciate that, man. But
sure.
And thank you to I want to say it's Niles.
Niles, right? That's my man.
Niles. Shout out to Niles for being patient and arranging this, man. It's been an honor, man. You have a phenomenal day, man. Tell your family we said thank you for loaning you to us for a second.
All right, appreciate it. All right, you be blessed.
No doubt, man. Have a good one.
You too.